Hey guys, this is the day 2 deck profile of Brave Marincess that I took to YCS 250th. I did pretty well. I went 6-0 and then I started losing to other decks. My sixth win was to Kashtira, in which it was my first Kashtira match of the day, and I 2-0'd it, thinking I was pretty confident going into the rest of the tournament after 2-0ing it. And then subsequently losing to the next Kashtira deck, I actually 2-1 that one, or I got 1-2 on that one. And then I played against two more the day two. Or actually, I played another one at the end, the last round of the YCS, and then I got 1-2 on that one. And then on the day two, the first round, I got knocked out by Kashtira again. That one was also 1-2. So the deck has a really good matchup against Kashtira. It's just that you have to side a little bit differently, as how I was doing it before. It wasn't very effective. But here's the deck list if you guys want to see it. I separated it by engines, so as you can see, the Marincess engine is very small. It's only about like 18 cards, I want to say. Yeah, they go by rules of 5, right? Yeah, so they go by 18s here, and if you see that these two cards are not really Marincess cards, they're actually Signet Mining. So in theory, or in actuality, there's only about 16 Marincess cards in this deck. So even with only 16 cards that are Marincess, it's actually pretty effective nonetheless. I combined it with the Brave Engine. So the Brave Engine, I played 3 Rider of Messier. This enables a lot of OTKs. So if you're going second, an Argonaut with the Battle Ocean is 4,300, and if you combine that with our Rider of Messier and Griffin Rider, that's an additional 4,000 damage. So this deck has OTK potential on top of being able to play a really good control game and recovery. So this is what I really like about this deck, is because it can recover really well because of Coral Triangle, being able to revive 2 Link monsters that total up to 3. So the Link monster you typically go for is an enemy and Sea Slug, or Blue Slug. And then an enemy will get you back a Marincess card that was in the graveyard, mostly Blue Tang, so you can send further Marincess monsters that you want to the graveyard and fetch it back. So this deck has a lot of synergy and a lot of recovery and a lot of, how would I say this? It has a lot of power gains as well, so you can enable OTKs. What else do I want to say about this? The reason why I also like this deck is because you can have a lot of space for hand traps. Depending on which format you're playing, which hand traps become effective or not. I decided to go with the 3 Nibiru line because, in my experience, going to YCSs puts you in the face of like a lot of different players, and a lot of different decks nowadays can summon past 5. Even if you are going to the top tables, at the bottom tables or the early rounds, I would say a lot of players you're gonna most likely play against players who will be playing to Nibiru. So Nibiru is always going to be a staple for YCSs. Not just too much for regional qualifiers or locals, but I would definitely have Nibiru in the main deck for for YCSs. Ash Blossom staple. There's no need to explain why we play Ash Blossom. Every deck searches if they want to be consistent. The Veiler was probably the more interesting choice. I think Veiler is really good against Kashtira just because you can negate Unicorn, and most of the time it stops their turn, and it also prevents them from using Unicorn's ability to look at your extra deck and banish one of their choice face down. So I really didn't like that. So that's why I made 3 Veilers, because if you Ash Blossom the Unicorn search, then they have the monster effect search. So that's the kind of the downside of playing Ash Blossom in this format. So just have to be more careful about that. Most likely you're going to be using this on like a Prosperity if you know that they're playing Kashtira. If you're playing against Floenderies, which I did play and I beat it, Ash Blossom is good with other ashing a different target is probably better than the Prosperity. And then we have the Imperum, which is a really good card because if you open it or go first with it, if you go first with it, you can set it and use it as it was intended. And if you're going second with it, you have the ability to use it on your turn or your opponent's turn to negate a monster effect. The reason why I play 41 cards is because of the Foolish Burial here. I couldn't find a space for Foolish Burial and Call By. I think Call By is a really good card in general because of D-Shifter. So you definitely want a card against D-Shifter, especially Kashtira and Flunderies both using, and Exo Sisters both using those cards. to basically stop this deck. D-Shifter really hurts the deck if you guys don't realize. It hurts it a lot because it revolves around the graveyard. So having a call by is really important. But having Foolish Burial is also good because you can dump Enchantress, and having Enchantress being able to fetch it with Foolish Burial to get your Rite of Air Missir opens up a lot of line of plays. Foolish Burial has other applications because I do play Mandarin. This is the one that generally people don't play just because they want space, and she's the most cuttable Marincess monster there is, and I agree. But I also like the effect that she can come out of the graveyard for free, either by Blue Tang being dumping her or Foolish Burial. This she extends your play, even if it's in your hand. So if you somehow draw her in your opening hand, she can still special herself as an extender, as opposed to not being able to extend if you didn't put her. So yeah, I'm gonna go through the extra deck, and then I'll go to the side deck. So there's two boss monsters in the extra deck. There's Argonaut, which everybody knows and loves. She has the ability to negate a spell and trap effect, and that's once per turn, only on your opponent's turn. And she also has other cool abilities too. So she's able to protect your main monster zones from being attacked if she's in the extra monster zone. So oftentimes, if you want your Griffin to survive an attack because they want to like attack over somehow, or even like having weaker monsters, because what she does is when she negates a spell and trap, she brings out Coral Anemone, which I like to equip to her, and then Coral Anemone is only at 2000 or 2200 with the Battle Ocean, and her being a 3700 attack monster and protecting a 2200 attack monster is essential for the recovery or the follow-up. So if you're starting your next turn and they haven't gotten rid of Argonaut, or even if they did get rid of Argonaut, you'll have an enemy to follow up the next turn. That's the idea behind Argonaut. She has the other ability too. On your turn, you can bounce a water monster on your side of the field and bounce back one of your cards, or bounce back one of your opponent's cards back to their hand. So that's really cool because it'll enable your OTKs by bouncing back either a trap card that might stop you from winning, or a monster that's in your way, that's set or something. So that's that her coupled with Dragoback, the Rideable Dragon, enables a lot of OTKs as well on your following turns if you go first, or if you're going second. Dragoback allows you to also bounce. So I play a lot of cards that are really good going first and really good going second, and it's a really good balanced deck. I think it's a really good strong choice for the meta, just because there's a lot of grinding now, and yeah, and then this plays the grind game really well, and it plays the really going first game really well too. So highly recommend this deck for the following tournaments that are going forward, just because it has a lot of plays. Even though it doesn't look like it does, it actually definitely does. And then I play two blue slug. Not much to say. She's a part of your combos. Sea Angel is part of your combos, so you can search. The only thing that's really different about this deck list is that I play Crystal Heart. And I probably play, yeah, everybody plays the Atlantis because you can banish basically your deck needs a way to like board clear effectively. And this card has a main phase effect where during your main phase you can banish all all monsters on the field and then special summon them back. But since you lock yourself into water monsters with Blue Slug, or even even Sea Anemone, then when you use the effect of the Atlantis, you basically dark hole the whole board, but then you get to keep your monsters and your opponent doesn't, because you're the one special summoning the monsters back. And if it's special summoning to your opponent's side of the field, then that counts as your stipulation of being able to be locked out of water monsters. Just a side note, you can't go into Z Atlantis if you use Splash Mage, because Z Atlantis is not a Cyberse monster, and the Splash Mage prevents you from playing Cyberse. So just a little keynote, you can't do that. Another thing I want to add is the fact that Kashtira is running around and they have Mind Diabolos to look at your extra deck, and Unicorn to look at your extra deck. You do have two boss monsters that you can go into that isn't Argonaut. You can go into Bubble Reef, which is a really strong monster that every time a card gets banished, she gets 600 attack, and that's every time, it's not once per turn. So she can hit really hard, and she also has the ability to discard a card from your hand to special summon a Marincess that's banished. So what I like to do is I like to bring out Bubble Reef, keep a Spring Girl in hand, banish a strong Marincess monster such as Marble Rock, and then special summon Marble Rock back with Bubble Reef, and then you have a lot of damage on board. Spring Girl will trigger the Bubble Reef effect to gain attack points, and then that on top of equipping with Battle Ocean allows you to push for basically OTK in the event that you don't have your Argonaut or your adventure package to do the main lines of OTK. What else do I want to say? Yeah, so Crystal Heart, the reason why I play this card is because of Dark Ruler No More. I know a lot of people are playing Kaijus in the side deck nowadays, but Crystal Heart allows you to play around Dark Ruler No More in the event that they open it, and if you make Argonaut with Crystal Heart, there's a lot of lines of plays where you can do that. Dark Ruler No More cannot negate Argonaut because it's unaffected by Dark Ruler No More. So that's a really cool thing about that. So that's why I play Crystal Heart. But with Kaijus, that's kind of even if you make Argonaut with Crystal Heart, they can still Kaiju over your Argonaut, and it won't matter. But this is just a line of play that you can do in case it's game 2 and they side deck Dark Ruler No More. What else do I want to say? Oh, yes, go to the side deck. Uh, Actually, so the Bahamas Shark and the Totally Awesome combo is pretty good, I would say. You can have more Omni Negates, so a really good hand will end on a Totally Awesome and Argonaut that's unaffected by with Crystal Heart. Using Crystal Heart, she's unaffected, and you can end and then have a Griffin Gate. That backed up with hand traps and regular traps makes the deck really strong. That's all I want to say about the extra deck. For the side deck, the first thing I want to mention is Gozen match should not be there. I did probably zero playtesting for the event. I use basically Yu-Gi-Oh theories to prepare. If you count Master Duels as a way of playtesting, yes, I definitely did playtest on Master Duels using this deck, but I didn't. And Master Duels is BO1, so there's no BO3 as part of the grinding a ladder. So I had to use theory to figure out what is good for the side deck. And in hindsight, I thought it was a good idea because I can lock out a lot of different decks from being able to play. But I realized that since I'm playing the adventure package, this is actually not really good. This is only really good in pure Marincess, not a Marincess Brave Marincess. So in going forward, I would take these out for Dimensional Barrier. Just because I believe Branded is going to be a popular deck now because a lot of people were playing it that topped, and Branded is just a really cool deck. I personally think Branded is a really fun deck, even though it only has it sometimes only has one line of play, which is the Branded Fusion. But in other scenarios, you can actually extend better. This should definitely be Dimensional Barrier. Also for other decks as well. But we'll talk about that. So here we have Anti-Spell Fragrance. I think this was the MVP of the going first side deck. This means that you can shut off a lot of plays from going first. Basically, a lot of decks rely on using spells in it nowadays to explode, except for Sprites, I would say. But even Sprites uses a starter to basically extend their plays. If you're playing against Kashtira, they rely on their spells. If you play against Flenderies, they rely on their spell. Even if you're playing the mirror match, they rely on resolving their spells. So I just think Anti-Spell Fragrance is a really good card going first, especially if you're building a deck where you're going first, you build a board to Omni Negate and then OTK the following turn. That's the idea. So Anti-Spell Fragrance definitely a must in the main deck. Not much else to say. Evenly Match was a questionable one. I didn't resolve it once in the tournament, but it is good in theory because you could essentially trade this card with an Omni Negate on the field. But if they don't have an Omni Negate, then you're basically clearing their whole board. So it's just a really good card. It's just bad because if you're playing an OTK deck, Evenly Matched kind of loses favorability because you can't OTK if you're using Evenly Matched because you give up your battle phase. That's what I'm going to say. I also play the main phase 1 killer, back row destructions. So I play Twin Twisters and I play Harpy's Feather Duster. Really good for going first and second. If you're playing against certain matchups that rely on their field spells to resolve. Twin Twisters really good. But also if they draw their floodgates. If they draw their floodgates, you can destroy their floodgates, such as Anti-Spell Fragrance, and discard an Enchantress to essentially pop off afterwards. Since you are drawing 6 cards going second, you can just discard an Enchantress and have more follow-up play. The two cards that I splashed in there because I had room was Book of Moon and Call Change of Heart. Funny enough, I actually drew these more often than not, even though they're only at one, and I don't have any cards that allow me to draw. So Book of Moon is really good against Kashtira because you can Book of Moon their Shangri-La before the standby phase happens for them to bring out Fenrir. They have to hard draw their Forbidden Lance to out the Book of Moon on the draw phase. And I also played Change of Hearts. Maybe this should have been another Book of Moon, I don't know. But Change of Hearts good because in case they go into the Shangri-La, you can just steal the Fenrir and attack with it and then banish the Shangri-La or a face down card that you're worried about. The only downside of that is you have to give up your battle phase. And they have to go do all your stuff in main phase 2. Yeah, that's the idea of Change of Heart. Also, Change of Heart's good against if they end on a Rise Heart, you can just steal the Rise Heart. If they chain their effect to destroy their own Rise Heart, fine, that's fine with me. It's a one card out to a Rise Heart. So yeah, that's pretty much the side deck. I use a lot of theories to craft this deck, so in actuality, I don't really need a playtest because I mean, there's not really much to learn with playtesting other than to know where to hand trap. But it should be pretty intuitive in this format where to hand trap. Uh, the only reason why you would playtest is if you don't know your lines, and just going forward in any deck that you play for YCS, just know your lines, your basic lines, and know like which line's better against certain decks, and that's all you have to do. You don't really need to playtest hours and hours like a lot of people do. I do commend and respect the fact that you can do that, but in actuality, the game is pretty like archetypal based, so you can just build like decks that like are very cohesive, or what is the word I'm looking for? Oh, synergize. They synergize with each other, and then they can just deliver you a win. Essentially, you want to be able to play a balanced deck. So if you do go second against a certain deck, you can win the games where you lose the die roll. That's the idea. And so if you play a deck that's good going second, good going first, then you should be doing pretty well in the event. I did do pretty well in the first 6 rounds, but until after I got to the top tables, I did get wiped out by a lot of Kashtira players, but that's fine. I mean, that's card games for you. You can't have 100% success rate. But yeah, this is gonna be my Marincess deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments, and yeah, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. All right, peace, guys.